Hello, everybody. It's Howard, the Teaserking, coming to you with the 2021 draft analysis. After the draft, I've done one before and gave you what I thought were good players. And then we'll see how the draft was. So my first broad brush of the draft, it was extremely weak. There was very few good players. I find that teams are just totally clueless of how to draft players, how to build a team. I don't think the GMs are qualified at most places. I know the coaches are terrible. So even if you do get a guy that's really good, the coach can't coach him. Excuse me. Drinking my lemon water. I'm seeing how healthy that is supposed to be, putting a half a lemon in with water and having that for breakfast. So that's something for the Teaserking. Anyway, I just find that, again, they make the same draft errors time and time again. Drafting offensive linemen, real early in the first round, it's a huge mistake. Drafting wide receivers early is a huge mistake. You need defense and the quarterback, but they don't even know what they're looking for in the quarterback. You've got to run a system that works for the quarterback, or like Tom Brady walks in, it doesn't matter the system, right? So you need a Tom Brady. Well, there's only so many. So they keep going out after a Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson, and we're going to have a running quarterback. We're going to play college. Well, it doesn't work in the pros. It only works in college. So again, when they draft these guys, and then they have this type of quarterback, and then they start drafting wide receivers for a quarterback that can't throw the ball. So I found this. I didn't recognize hardly any defensive players, and that's because with COVID, there was schools that just didn't play. So it was an extremely rough draft because you're forced to draft players that maybe only played a few games last year or didn't play. Jamar Chase from LSU didn't even play last year. How are you going to draft him? You can't. It's extremely difficult. The guys from the Big Ten and the Pac-10, they only played a few games, or the Mid-America Conference, I think they played 5 games. I mean, it's very hard to draft guys without seeing them. And then what I hate are all these draft analysts. One guy gave everybody an A. I was reading it. This team A, that team A. All the picks were A's, all that. That's ridiculous. You can't. There's very few A players, and I don't think I have one A team. I got one A team. Otherwise, there isn't any. I mean, because it's when you take the pick and it's your team. So let's go to the 74 Steelers. In 73 and 72, they beat the Raiders on the Immaculate Reception. 73 comes, they get killed by the Raiders in revenge in the playoffs the next year, and they were lacking Jack Lambert, Lynn Swann, John Stallworth. They were lacking good wide receivers. So what do? They draft Swann, Stallworth, Lambert. So they get the guys they needed. That's a different story. They had 99% of the steel curtain. They had Green and Greenwood and Mel Blount and Mike Wagner. They're there. So you just needed, you get Lambert, you get Jack Ham. Okay, you got Bradshaw and Harris and a good offensive line, but you don't have receivers. So that's maybe when you take a need like that. But that's one of the best teams that ever played football that had, so that's what you do when you're that team. But you're well coached and you got a great GM who can spot talent. I've never seen a GM spot talent like this guy. Now they don't know what they're doing. So, I don't know. Well, the team doesn't know what they need, so they draft like Miami. Well, we'll get into that, but I mean, like some of these teams drafted receivers early, like Philadelphia. The last thing they need is a wide receiver. They need a lot of talent. They need a quarterback. Like Miami needs a quarterback, but they don't draft it. They don't know. They don't recognize talent, so they don't know the talent they have is not good. So they draft other positions that won't be helped. So it's not knowing how to build a team and not knowing what to do. How to build a team. You don't need the quarterback. You need the good defense. You need the steel curtain. Then you get a quarterback. Most running backs can fit in, and most wide receivers these days can fit in. It cracks me up with these offensive linemen drafted early. What school? First of all, what's your scheme? Are you going to be balanced? Are you going to run a lot? Or are you just going to throw 90 times a game? Well, the offensive lineman now in college, if you go to Oklahoma, you're a pass blocker. You're not a run blocker. A lot of these teams, Alabama probably too, you're a pass blocker, not a run blocker. Maybe you're a little more balanced at Alabama. LSU's a very balanced team. But when you go to these Oklahomas or these passing-happy schools, the linemen there are pass protectors, not run. And then you wonder why you can't run. The Detroit Lions are a perfect example. They're not balanced. They throw the ball with Stafford all the time. Now he's gone, so we'll see what happens. But basically, you're drafting run blockers, wondering why can't I run when you have a passing quarterback and you need pass blockers. It's probably hard to find them both. I don't know, but to me, I can find the guy, as I've stated 1,000 times here, from Oklahoma, Nebraska, Michigan, Ohio State, who is just as good as whoever you're getting in the first round. But I can get the guy in the first. I can get Lynn Swann in the first round. I can't get him in the fourth round. I can get the old lineman in the fourth round. I think the Steelers' fourth pick that year was Mike Webster, fourth rounder or fifth rounder, Hall of Famer. They didn't get him in the first round. But they needed Swann. That's my point. You don't need the lineman. I bet Tampa didn't have anybody. I'll check this out. Didn't have anybody drafted in the first round last year. They won the Super Bowl. KC, I know, had that one guy 2 years ago who was drafted like number one. I don't even know if he played. But it's not important to get an offensive lineman in the first round. It doesn't. Lynn Swann made a difference, right? He does. The lineman doesn't, because I can put a blitz in and you can't block me. So it doesn't matter who you got at offensive lineman. So when I see that, so it just shows me the concept that the GMs don't get it. I think it's a money issue. They're going, well, I don't have to pay the offensive lineman much. I know that's the Lions' theory. I'm cheap. If I draft the offensive lineman first, then I don't have to pay the guy. And I'm sure that's their thought process. So let's get on to the NFC. I'll do a video NFC, a video AFC. And I'll try to explain and teach as I go. I had a nice email from a colleague asking me about 14-point teasers and stuff like that. And I said to him, well, I try to teach, and in the videos I try to teach. And I hope you notice that I'm trying to teach as I go, so you understand what I understand. I'm at a very, very high level. Been doing this since 1970, so I've seen it all, I've analyzed it all, and I have that type of problem-solving, analytical mind. So when I lose a football bet, I go, why? When I win a football bet, I go, why? And as I'm predicting, I'm going, why? And you see that in my videos, I explain it. So I'm trying to explain the draft to you, what's going on, not just giving grades out. Oh, everybody got an A. Like, what an idiot that guy is. So let's start with Arizona. We'll go down the list. NFC. I gave them a B. Collins, I give a B, their first pick, and Rondell Moore was really a good wide receiver. I give him an A, but he's injured a lot in college, so we'll see. I like Wiggins, the safety from Cincinnati, because Cincinnati was a defensive school with an Ohio State coach, so he's going to be like an Ohio State safety. So on a good defensive team and you draft their defense, I'm going like that's a good pick because obviously they had a good defense and therefore they obviously have good players and a good scheme, so the guy's going to be a good pro even though he was drafted later. So I give them 3 guys that should make their team. Hopefully Moore stays healthy. We'll see. You got to realize in the draft, most of the guys aren't going to make the team because you got a full team now. Even if you lose guys for free agency, you're picking up guys in free agency. And the problem with free agency is chemistry. Like, is this guy going to fit in? And I've seen where it screws up teams. They don't have the chemistry. And the Steelers and the Cowboys in the 70s and the Raiders, they didn't have people from other teams. The Raiders started doing that, I think, in the 80s when they'd bring in like Lyle Alzado and guys like that, Otis Sistrunk. But generally it was the group. They've been together the whole time. The Stabler was there for 10 years. Then he goes to Houston, but when he's there and Wells and Branch, Blitnikoff, Blitnikoff and Branch and Stabler were there 10 years. I mean, so you don't have this free agency. I don't really like it. I think it's really stupid. I think you should sign your players, and I really it's making predicting very difficult because you've got all this new cast, right? And when the quarterback leaves and then all these new coaching changes and all the quarterbacks that come and go and they get drafted in the first round, Josh Rosen, and then he's gone. You're not even giving him Darnold. Now he goes to Carolina. Well, Darnold sucks. He's not going to do anything at Carolina. He's not. If he was going to do anything, he'd have done it at the Jets. Remember, all the players in the NFL are professionals. The reason one team wins and one team loses is the coaches. If you had Lombardi go to the Jets, they'd be in the playoffs, right? If you had John Madden go to the Jets, they'd be in the playoffs. So you bring in a bad coach, it's not the talent. The linemen are good. The offensive linemen can block. The running backs can run. The receivers are good catcher. I mean, it's very, very, they're all pros. They're all top college players that get into the pros. So the difference is coaching. Anyway, so with that said, so I give Arizona a B. Atlanta I'm going to give a B, and I'm generous. Pitts was drafted too high. You don't draft a wide receiver number 4. Why? Because you can get the same guy in the second round or third round. Is Pitts good? Pitts was injured a lot last year for Florida. He showed up in the Alabama game, because it was on TV and it was good for him, but he missed quite a few games. So is he going to be around, especially in Atlanta? You got Julio Jones and Ridley, so you've already got your wide receivers. I'm not quite sure why would you waste a pick on Pitts. I like the O-linemen they picked up in the third and fourth rounds. Those are when you pick up O-linemen. I question this Grant. I think he's a cornerback from UCF. Why? UCF gave up 45 points a game. Their cornerbacks and their secondary is not good. Okay, so to draft a guy from UCF in the secondary is a mistake. Like I said, Cincinnati, I would have drafted those guys. Northwestern had a nice defense. Could always go with Ohio State and LSU. Never go with Alabama. And so you got to go to teams that have strong defenses. That's where I want the defensive players because that's where they are. Not not a guy from UCF or Texas Tech teams that give up 50 a game. Why do I want their defensive players? So it just shows you that the coaches the GMs are clueless. The guy just probably, I don't know, I'll take him. He was on some list. It's just stupid. So I think the offensive linemen will help Atlanta. I don't know if they were weak there. I don't think that's really the problem there. That's the coach. Pitts, what are you going to do with him? You got Julio Jones and Ridley. What are you going to do with Pitts? Terrible pick. Great player, terrible pick. Wrong team. And then Grant, UCF, again. And the rest of the guys won't make the team. I mean, Atlanta has players. That's not their problem. Next team, Carolina, C. I graded them with C. You're not going to live with Sam Bradford. He stinks. He wasn't good at USC, and he certainly wasn't good at the Jets, and all of a sudden he's going to be good at Carolina with no help. I do like Hubbard, the running back from Oak State. I mean, he ran for 2,000 yards. He didn't do that much last year, but he's a good running back. Although you've got whatchamacallit. I'm gonna have name problems. I can see. I don't know. There's stud running back who does all their catching and passing. God, I can't think of the name. Anyway, so they have him. So now you got Hubbard to back him up. Marshall, the wide receiver from LSU. I like the LSU players, obviously. I'll give him a B. I think he's a good, he'll help. The rest, this horde, the cornerback from South Carolina drafted number 8. Huge mistake. You don't draft cornerbacks early. Again, they're a dime a dozen. If you watch the games, they all cover. It doesn't matter. You can't touch a guy within 5 yards. You could have Mel Blount out there. He's not going to do a whole lot in the current NFL, as wide open as it is. So a bad pick. Carolina probably needed a good defensive end. Probably a quarterback would have been good. Like, I could have seen them taking the kid from Alabama, not this horde. Or they should have drafted Kyle Trask from Florida. That's really what their need was, is quarterback. But they don't see it because they went and got Bradford, who's not the answer. But the problem is they get him as the answer, but he's not the answer. And then they pass up on a Kyle Trask, and they pass up on Sam Ehlinger because we've got Bradford. This is the whole problem with the league, right? They can't spot talent. They don't have the sight to see that the guy's good or bad, he's a winner or a loser. So you have Bradford, you miss Trask. Trask is much better right now. You could have. I think they have Will Grier, so I really don't know why they got Bradford and not playing Grier. I think he went to Carolina. So it's a mystery, It's a team that doesn't know what they're doing, and you wonder why they go 4-12 every year. This is why teams are bad every year. They don't make good picks because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know the eye for talent. Very few GMs have an eye for talent. It's all gimmicks. It's all, we're going to have a quarterback and 4 wide receivers, and our defense is going to suck, but we don't care. We won't run the ball and be balanced. McCafferty, that's the guy. So they have McCafferty, but he was injured all of last year. So you need help like that. So Hubbard maybe comes in and helps with the running, but that's what they're lacking. And then the guy Horde, how good is Horde from South Carolina? Again, Chicago, I give them an F. No help. No one makes the team. Fields is Dwayne Haskins, is J.T. Barrett, is Herb Kirkstreet, is Kirk Herbstreit, is Art Schlichter. None of the Ohio State quarterbacks, maybe Art Schlichter, were any good or did anything in the NFL because it's a system that won't work in the NFL. Here's my case in point. Urban Meyer could have drafted Justin Fields, Ohio State guy, going to Jacksonville. He can run the Ohio State offense. Doesn't draft him. That speaks volumes for the problems Ohio State quarterbacks have in the NFL. The Bears, what are the Bears going to do with them? Kyle Trask, perfect fit. See, Kyle Trask will be this year's Patrick Mahomes, right? Good, great. Watch him in Florida. He beat freaking Georgia, and he put 42 up on Alabama. That's the guy I want, not Justin Fields, who runs an option and runs the ball and throws it, in a spread offense like Alabama's, where the quarterback looks a lot better than he is and doesn't translate to the pro game. Nobody else they drafted will make the team. Nobody was any good. It's just sad. I don't know where all their picks went or what they did with them, but they got no help. And Fields won't be the answer. You'll see him. He'll be a little bit running the ball. He'll run for 10 yards. Everybody will get excited. And they get in the red zone. He'll start throwing interceptions. He'll start fumbling the ball. He'll want to run it. He won't use his wide receivers. Again, this isn't Ohio State, so his talent has gone way down. I give it an F. Terrible draft. And this is why they're bad, and this is why they're still bad. They don't know enough to draft Kyle Trask. I mean, this is the whole problem in a nutshell. Instead of drafting Kyle Trask as my quarterback in the second round and getting a stud running back or a stud defensive lineman to help my defense, which is pretty good. So maybe some running backs would have been the guy from Alabama, Najee Harris. Maybe I would have drafted him with this pick and then gotten Kyle Trask in the second round. But to get Fields, why? I mean, it just, he doesn't prove anything. He looked good in the Clemson loss, or he looked good getting killed by Alabama. I don't see it. I mean, they don't play Michigan at Chicago. If they played Michigan, I would say, yeah, it was a good pick. But unfortunately, they don't play the Big Ten schedule. Dallas, I give them a C. I like the defensive help they needed. It's the defensive coordinator's the problem. They had talent. They drafted a lot of secondary. I think Cox from LSU is their best pick. All average players, no starters for a weak defense. So the one LSU player I like, I think he's a defensive guy. They drafted a ton of defense. But again, they don't know who they're drafting, and they don't know why they're drafting. They're just drafting a bunch of guys on defense that most of them are, a couple will probably be good subs or special team guys. Nobody impactful but Cox. So that's why they get the C pick. They still need a quarterback. I think they got a backup. I got to check that out. I'll know more of that as the season comes. As I said, their quarterback's not very good. Dak Prescott, he's right in line with Lamar Jackson, and that he's not a winner. I mean, what else can I say? But this is why Dallas keeps winning 3 and 4 games a year. I don't really like their coach. I don't like their defensive coordinator. You put Jimmy Johnson back there, and I guarantee you they make the playoffs with whatever talent he's got, because he makes the talent. He's got the eye for talent. That's why Jimmy Johnson always won. Detroit, I gave them an F. Horrible draft. An offensive lineman in the first round, no. Defensive lineman their next 2 rounds that aren't any good. No coach. GM obviously is horrible. I think they'll be lucky to win 2 games. You got no quarterback golf, so what do they do for quarterback? So you had, the 8th, 9th pick. You could have drafted Trask. You could have drafted Ellinger. You could have drafted the kid from Alabama who went to New England. And you draft an offensive lineman that's not their problem is not that. Your problem is your quarterback. The problem is the coach doesn't know what he's doing. With Stafford, it was, again, is this guy a run blocker or a pass blocker? Who is he? And then what are you going to do with him? You're going to try running the ball with a pass blocker, or are you going to try passing the ball with Jared Goff? And you lost all your receivers. They needed defense. That should have been their first round pick if they weren't going to take Kyle Trask. Then they should have taken some of these edge rushers that I see that, again, I don't know much about. I would have went to an LSU or Cincinnati for defense, one of these strong defensive teams, and just drafted their best players, linemen, edge rusher or linebacker. But not in the first round. You already drafted the Okudah from Ohio State. That worked out real well. Again, it's fitting the player with the scheme, and again, they don't know what their scheme is, so they don't know what player they need. You got a coach that's never coached before. Yeah, 2-14 at best. We'll be betting strongly against the Lions probably every week. I think even the Bears with Justin Fields can beat them. Green Bay, another F. No help at all. Nobody will make the team. Why Rodgers, a wide receiver from Clemson? When has a Clemson player ever proven to do anything in the NFL? There's a lot more better receivers than this Rodgers. You got Myers, an old lineman from Ohio State in the later rounds. He'll be a good backup. Probably the only one that'll make the team. But he was picked in the second round, which was too high. You need defensive help, and you need running backs, and you need wide receivers. And you take a kid from Clemson. This GM is like another idiot. I mean, it's just sad to see these guys, how they get these jobs. It's amazing, but you got Aaron Rodgers to kind of cover it up. I was reading an article on New England about Bill Belichick, and what he does is he takes the best players and put them in. That's bullshit. Bill Belichick won for one reason, because he had Tom Brady winning the games for him at the end with his strong quarterback play that you didn't coach. Don't give me this shit. Bill Belichick doesn't know what he's doing. Their drafts prove it. Look at him without Brady. He was terrible. Cam Newton's not the answer, but he can't see it. He's got the kid Stidham from Auburn. That kid should be playing. They could have had Kyle Trask too, but they don't know what they're doing. So it's the GMs that, again, here's another, maybe an offensive lineman from Ohio State that'll make the team because he's from Ohio State. Nobody else, Rodgers from Clemson was not impressive. Middle of the road wide receiver, he's nothing. Maybe he's a 5th, 6th rounder or free agent. I wouldn't have taken him where they did. The Rams, an F, another F. I got no one makes the team. Atwell, wide receiver from Florida, or from Louisville, caught 40 balls, 13-yard average at Louisville. Hardly a second-round pick, maybe 5th or 6th round. That was the only player that even resembled a player, was this guy. So you wasted a second-round pick on Atwell from Louisville. He's not even the best. He wasn't even the best receiver at Louisville. You're wasting a second-round pick on him. Go to a passing school for a wide receiver in the second round. I don't mind a wide receiver in the second round, but get a good one. Not a guy who's not even the best one on their team. All the other picks were bad. No one makes the team. Again, Rams are going to slide even further. And Stafford's going to turn it into a passing team, and we know what happens to passing teams. Their defense gets tired. They can't get the ball in the end zone. They do have that good running back, so we'll see what happens, how much he bends and lets the guy run. But basically you're dealing with passing teams, don't rest their defense, don't get the ball into the end zone, and never win. So keep that in mind. Minnesota, F. Weak draft. Kelly Mond at quarterback. Seriously? He's nothing special. O-lineman in the first round, and a huge mistake. Not much there in talent. Davis, offensive lineman, Ohio State. He's your bright spot. Why do I do that? Why do I sit there and go, well, the offensive linemen from Ohio State don't make the team, but I don't see these other colleges? Because I know Ohio State has good talent, and they run a good system, and their linemen are proven in the NFL. So when you draft a guy, that's the point. You draft him later, third, fourth, fifth round, the lineman from Ohio State. Perfect. Because you can get him there, and he's as good as any of the other linemen drafted. Because it's a lineman. He doesn't catch the ball. He doesn't run the ball. They're all the same. They block. There's a blocking technique for running and for passing, and that's it. They got it. So either the guy's rough and he blocks well, or he doesn't. But the guy in the first round and the guy in the fifth round from Ohio State both block the same. There's no skill set difference in blocking. You block the guy. So in the NFL, they're all very good linemen. They all know what they're doing. They don't have to be first rounders. Receivers, yes. Running backs, Barry Sanders, yes. How about that draft? Green Bay takes Tony Mandarich. Boy, that really helped them. Lions get Barry Sanders. I mean, that really is the whole point of why you can't draft an offensive lineman in the first round. What does it do for you? Where did Green Bay go with Tony Mandarich? And where the Lions actually made the playoffs with their coaching with Barry, because of Barry Sanders. And that's why you can't get Barry Sanders in the second or third round. You got a whole bunch of Tony Mandariches coming second, third, fourth round. This kid from Ohio State, Tony Mandarich. I mean, there you go. Everybody else is weak. They're just drafting the draft. They don't have a clue what they're doing. Minnesota needs defensive help. They don't need Mond at quarterback. That's a wasted pick. And again, the old lineman in the first round's a wasted pick. Defense is what hurt Minnesota last year. As I said, all their linemen, they had a great defense 2 years ago, and they all went free agent, and they can't replace them. You don't need an old lineman and Mond. They're still going to be the same team as last year. You got a weak Kirk Cousins, and you got a weak defense. They're an over team. They're still an over team. New Orleans, I give them a D. I think they set some good defensive help. The first two guys will make the team. Warner, linebacker, Ohio State. I'm not happy with Book from Notre Dame. He's not a good quarterback. I love Joe Montana, so don't pick on me for Notre Dame. I thought they got him too early, and I think they have their quarterback. They don't need Book. Book's not the guy they should have went after. They should have went after Ellinger. But he doesn't show me anything at Notre Dame. In the game against Clemson, I don't think he had 500. So in the better games against the better teams, he doesn't show up. Notre Dame's not a real passing team anyway. They run a lot of gimmicks and a lot of running, so they didn't light it up last year at all. So I don't agree with Book. I don't think he does anything in the pros. He'll be lucky. He'll be a third stringer. I mean, why draft this guy? The New York Giants. I give him a D. I don't like Tony. in the first round. Again, a wide receiver. First of all, they need a quarterback, but again, they won't address that. They have their running back, but I don't know how good Tony is. When you got a guy like Pitts on the team and Tony, it's like Alabama. When you got 2 or 3 good receivers, how good are they? The LSU guys, they had Burrow, Eclair, and then they got Chase and Jefferson. How good are they? Well, Jefferson's excellent. Burrow is an all-pro, and Eclair is an all-pro. So you have the talent. So how good is Chase going to be? So same thing with Tony. You had Pitts. You had Kyle Trask. So therefore, I don't draft him in the first round. I get a good receiver in the maybe second or third round. I don't think Tony's Lynn Swan, where I can't get Tony later or another Tony. Nice defensive picks. The kid from Georgia I like. I don't like the defensive linemen from UCF in Northern Iowa or the edge rushers. Again, UCF is not a defensive school. Their defensive players are not very good because they give up 40 points a game. Northern Iowa, what the hell is that? I'd be getting that guy free agency. Now, if you went to Iowa, I could understand and take them. They got the Big Ten's got a lot of good defensive teams. I'd be taking a lot of Big Ten players. But now Ohio State, Wisconsin, Indiana has some nice players, and Iowa, of course. Minnesota's getting better, but Northern Iowa, really? So that's why their grade's a D. I don't like Tony in the first round, although he could be an okay receiver if they use him well, but you need a Pitts, and I can't remember the Giants wide receivers right now, so I think he'll probably start. But I think he'll be like these Alabama guys like Judy. He doesn't do anything, they're fast. They'll make a catch in a game, but you don't go for them on third. They're no Blitnikoff types. Philadelphia, I gave him a C. Smith, wide receiver, Alabama, Heisman Trophy winner. Who's going to throw him the ball? I thought he was drafted too high because he's a wide receiver. I don't like Alabama offensive lineman in round 2. I think that's too high. I love Gainwell, the running back. He will be the starting running back. This guy is great. Played for Memphis. As a freshman was great. Didn't play last year. A little disappointed, but he's got talent. He's their best draft pick, is Gainwell. Smith will be okay, but you don't have a quarterback to throw him the ball, so what's the point? And then this Alabama offensive lineman, they never do anything in the pros. Again, I'd rather have seen them if they're going to take an offensive lineman in round 2, which I would advise against, some kid out of Ohio State, maybe Penn State. Where the good linemen go, Wisconsin. So I'm not crazy about that. I like Smith. I think he'll be a good receiver, but he's a complementary piece. He's not the main star. What he did on Alabama was against mostly weak teams. Although he did show up against Ohio State, I give him credit there. I do think he'll be a good receiver, but their need is quarterback. So you got Jalen Hurts running around, can't hit the broadside of a barn, lucky to complete 50% of his passes over 5 yards, and you draft a wide receiver. Makes no sense. Could have had Kyle Trask. Seattle's a tough one. They only had a few picks. They only had 3 picks. I do like Eskridge, their wide receiver. I give him a B. And it wasn't a first-round pick. It was their first pick, but I think it was second or third round. And an old lineman from Florida in round 6. I think that was a nice pick. So I gave them Bs. They only had 3 picks. They need help for Russell Wilson, so the old lineman from Florida makes sense. Eskridge, the wide receiver, I don't know. That doesn't make sense. You got wide receivers. They need defense, and they didn't draft any. So Seattle is probably another over team. I don't think they improved from last year. So we'll see what happens. Russell Wilson, I'm getting impatient with him. Too many interceptions. Before he would never throw interceptions. Now he's throwing them quite a bit. So he killed us against the Rams, which was a shock when he threw the pick six. He did that several times. Several times near the end zone he threw pick sixes. So I don't know about Russell Wilson. He better get his head straight. San Francisco, F. You seriously drafted Trey Lance with the 3 pick as your quarterback. F. Maybe as a wide receiver, punt returner, the Joe Theismann type. Maybe. I don't see him as a quarterback. He played 1 year. Division II, North Dakota State. They run an Ohio State offense, so it's meaningless in the pros. Yeah, they're hung up on his 28 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against what competition? You can't draft a quarterback 3 with 1 year of experience. I don't care who you are. There's no way. And from this school, he'll be lucky to be as good as Carson Wentz, who is terrible. I mean, Carson Wentz is terrible. He likes to run. He's trying to run the North Dakota State offense, which doesn't work in the pros because you got receivers and running quarterbacks don't work. And that's why he's booted out of Philadelphia and for Jalen Hurts yet. He didn't even get drafted. He didn't even get moved for a real quarterback. Terrible pick. Wasted pick. Kyle Trask on the board. Sam Ehlinger on the board. You draft Lance. Okay. Really? Trey Sermon, Ohio State. I give it a C. He's a backup running back. Again, it's the problem with Ohio State. It's the style, the offensive system. It's wide open. Well, Frisco doesn't run it. They run a power running game. What's Sermon going to do against that when they're looking to stop the run, like the rest of the Ohio State running backs in the NFL who do nothing? So I give it a C. I don't know that they needed a running back. They need defense and a quarterback. Lots of backups for the O-line. Okay. A couple will make the team. A lot of wasted picks. No concept of what they're doing. They're just drafting guys. I'll draft this guy. He's on the board. I'll take. Yeah. They don't know what they're doing. Bad GM. I'm not a big fan of whatchamacallit. I can see him, but I can't think of his name. Like I'm saying, I'm in a bad name day today. Shanahan, he's a choke coach. He screwed Atlanta with his wonderful play calling. He doesn't know how to win the game. He screwed Frisco with their terrible play calling against Kansas City. So that's 2 Super Bowls that any other coach would have won that he doesn't know what he's doing. Last year, so they signed Garoppolo, so that means they have no eye for talent. They don't know that Garoppolo's not good. And now you draft Trey Lance, a guy who's is no Russell Wilson, but that's like what they're trying. He runs the ball. Yeah, well, we see how running quarterback. They had Kaepernick. They didn't do well with him, but they had a killer defense when they had Kaepernick. And they had good receivers. They don't have that now. Another year, no playoffs for Frisco. Tampa Bay got my only A. Tampa Bay took Kyle Trask in the second freaking round. Good for them, because Brady's there another year, another Super Bowl, then Trask takes over, and he learns by Brady. Brilliant move. Wide receiver Darden. A steal in round 4. A. Rest, some make the team as backups. The team's pretty loaded. They got some edge guys. Okay. You won the Super Bowl. You're a pretty loaded team. Your defense isn't even that good. Got a little bit better. But to get Darden and to get Trask, brilliant move. Brilliant fucking move. Look for Tampa to win the Super Bowl again with Brady. You add Darden to the mix with all their receivers. You got a defense. I'll be betting that New Orleans is weak now without Breeze. So look for Tampa to run the table They might only lose 1-2 games at the most. Carolina ain't going to beat them. Atlanta ain't going to beat them. Yeah. Is Atlanta going to beat them now that they got Pitts? I don't think so. And my last team, Washington, I gave them an F. Quote, what a mess. No clue what they're doing. You have a strong defense, so what do you need? Offense. You need a quarterback, you need some receivers. The running backs are You got pretty good offensive line for what they're trying to do. No defensive needs, but they draft no quarterbacks, running backs, and a lot of defense. Well, I began the show saying the Steelers had everything but the receiver, and they drafted Lynn Swann. They didn't draft another defensive lineman to go with because they had Joe Green and L.C. Greenwood and Dwight White. They did draft Lambert because they had Jack Ham and Andy Russell, and they needed the middle linebacker. Perfect drafting. The one hole in our defense we draft, the holes on offense, the receivers we draft. Perfect. They didn't draft a bunch of defensive players, maybe later in the draft, but not with their valuable picks. Swan, Stallworth, Lambert. What does Washington do? They didn't draft a quarterback. They didn't draft a running back. I don't know about the receivers. Not anybody really good where I would have said, hey, this guy's pretty good. Quote, idiot GM, which is why they're a weak team every year. And that's basically it. You need a quarterback, you don't get one. You have Dwayne Haskins, again, Ohio State quarterback that sucks in the NFL. Justin Fields will be another Ohio State quarterback that sucks in the NFL. See, why do people think... I always get this comment because I do things a lot repetitively. People say, well, you're crazy because you expect a different result. But I do get the different result because I'm digging in a different hole. So if none of the Ohio State quarterbacks who throw for 50 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in college every year, J.T. Barrett was great in college. Haskins, great in college, 50 touchdowns. The kid Jones, who won the championship, played 5 games in college, which is my point with Trey Lance, wins the title. None of them can make it in the NFL. None of them are any good. Jones was in Oakland, and without a quarterback, he couldn't even make the team. This is my point. Jamarcus Russell, athletic kid, couldn't throw, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Vince Young, great college quarterback, ran a lot, didn't do anything in the pros. This is the point. If you want an athletic quarterback, which they don't have, you draft, Donovan McNabb, Russell Wilson. Okay, they can throw the ball. To draft a running quarterback or these Ohio State quarterbacks who look good at Ohio State because they got better running backs. They got a better team in college than they're going to get in the pros, right? They got great running backs in college, a great offensive line, great wide receivers, and they run this little option where they fake it to the running back and then they run, or they throw it to Bobby Olive and these superstar wide receivers, and they look great. And the receiver, they just look at the defense, and if the defense, they're either going to give them the run or give them the pass. That's what happens. But look at Fields against Northwestern. He's terrible. Against Northwestern, he was terrible. Now, Northwestern had a good defense, not a pro defense. So what you going to do in the pros when you can't fake the run and run around the end, and you don't have Bobby Olive as your receiver? You don't have anywhere near that skill set at receiver on Washington. So what are you going to do? So they needed a quarterback. They don't get one. I like Alex Smith. He's okay, but he's running the Ohio State offense, which is why he's never really done anything in the pros. So he's probably the best guy who ran the Ohio State offense at Utah with Urban Meyer that did anything in the pros, and he's average at best, never been a Pro Bowler, never did much, and always lost any big game they were in. So again, they don't get the style. They don't know how to hire a GM. The GM doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to build a team, and the coach doesn't know how to coach because very few coaches are any good now. That's your basic problem with pro football, and they fire these coaches so quickly. And there's 6 a year. I track this because I want to bet on a coach who's been there, but I can't. I can barely find a coach who's been there for 5 years that I get a betting trend on. Or the quarterback leaves. So, okay, Brady switches to Tampa. I don't know how to bet him. He's never been at Tampa. I can't use Tampa stats. I got New England with Cam Newton now. I can't use their stats. So I'm stuck. And you got to be very careful betting football now. I'm telling you this as your friend, as your mentor, as the Teaser King. It's very difficult now to get good stats, good trends. Too many movements. A new coach comes in. What's the trend on the coach? You don't know. New quarterback comes in. Okay, who got a quarterback? Jacksonville. They take Trevor Lawrence. The Jets got Zach Wilson. How do you bet them? You have no idea. And if they start right away, you got to wait at least a year to figure them out. Mahomes, I'm finally getting trends on him, and he's not covering the way he used to because the line's 14 points, and he ain't covering the 14. Hell, in the last 6 or 7 games, they won by a touchdown. They didn't cover very many of those. So, again, you got to be careful. It's very difficult now with all the movement, and it's hard in college because of the same thing, these kids moving around. Fields should have been the quarterback at Georgia last year. And you wonder why I pushed Jake Fromm is because of Fields couldn't beat him out. So everybody thinks Fields, real high draft pick, he's a star, da-da-da-da-da. He couldn't beat out Jake Fromm at Georgia. This is why I like Georgia. And Jake Fromm was extremely good at Georgia, playing Florida every year with their defense, freaking Alabama, LSU, Auburn. This guy, I think Georgia plays Auburn every year. They'd play Alabama in the SEC title game. They play Florida and Kentucky every year, which has great defenses. He was a star. This is my point. If he's that good at Georgia, he's going to be a good pro. And this is why, and Josh Allen is a running quarterback. He's got a big arm, but he doesn't know what team he's throwing to. Can't read a blitz, can't read a defense. Pointless. That's my point here. You've got to be very, this is what GMs should be looking for, not what they're doing. Drafting Trey Lance in the 3rd pick. Maybe, if I'm the GM of the Robbins team, of the Teaser Kings, I honestly would have drafted Kyle Trask. I would have drafted Zach Wilson if he was available, but I would have drafted Kyle Trask. I would have drafted Kyle Trask because he's a winner. If I couldn't have traded for Jake Fromm, giving a 5th-round draft pick to Buffalo for Jake Fromm, I would have taken him. Or Will Grier, the other kid from Florida, who went to West Virginia because he got beat out by Kyle Trask. So this is the problem, right? Kyle Trask beats him out, but you don't like Kyle Trask. I mean, Will Grier's he's very strong quarterback. I mean, they don't accidentally do this in college with a good offense and then not be a good pro. It just really boggles my mind. And then the drafts, we'll draft offensive linemen and defense. Who knows what they're doing? Build your team defensively. Have a good running back. You look at the Packers of the 60s, Steelers of the 70s had good running backs, great defenses. The Dolphins won 2 titles with defense. That's what hurt the Raiders all those years. They never had that defense that would win the games for them, and the only reason they started winning is they got Marcus Allen, and they made that big trade for Mike Haynes and had Lester Hayes, and then all of a sudden they had some defense. You don't win without defense. New England, Brady never won with a weak defense. He only won when he had that real superstar defense. That's why he didn't win 20 titles because he didn't have good defenses with the Belichick draft genius. So that's what you look for. Overall, very few teams have a clue what they're doing. You pretty much just, we're looking to bet against weak coaches, which are all over the league, and we're looking for matchups. We're looking for weak defenses to bet overs with against a good quarterback. And then all these changes, we have to be patient and watch. New Orleans, Tyson Hill, they don't have Breeze. They'll be okay because they got Sean Payton. You got the coach, and they got a pretty good defense. They'll probably go under more, but Payton's a real good offensive coordinator. But a lot of these teams, okay, the Rams, the 49ers have these offensive coaches. Rams will change with the guy from the Lions, who I can't think of. The Lions will change because now they got Goff, who sucks, and they used to be an over, no defense and a good quarterback, and now they'll just be a bet against. I mean, Goff won't do crap. Their defense is non-existent. They have no receivers, and they have a coach that couldn't coach a high school team. So if they're very, very weak, you bet against them. If they've got a weak defense and a good quarterback, you bet them over. And if they run the ball strong and have a good defense, a.k.a. the Rams, Stafford, that's the quarterback. So with Stafford there, we'll see how they change, but they have the good defense. They're a very good under team. So you got to watch that. How's Stafford going to impact that? Are they now going to be an A team because they'll have a good offense with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, or are they going to be, still run the ball and still play under? And that's what you're looking for. But you got to watch the coaches, and you got to learn and that's what I'm here for, is to teach you. This team doesn't have a good. Philadelphia does not have a good quarterback. Don't bet them over. They got a good defense, good defensive coach in Schwartz. He's not a head coach. He's a good defensive coach. But now they lost their head coach, so who knows what they're going to be doing. So again, you're getting used to the new coaches, and now these quarterbacks jump right in. Jacksonville, I'll probably be betting against them a lot because Trevor Lawrence, I don't see it. Every big game he choked, except for the freshman year, he did okay. He's nowhere near Deshaun Watson. In the big games, he didn't even throw 50%, and he likes to run a lot. And what do we know about running quarterbacks? They lose. So maybe Jacksonville's an over because of this quarterback and their weak defense. And Urban Meyer, let's see if he runs their Ohio State offense, and if he does, why didn't he draft Fields, which would have made perfect sense for his offense. So I don't like his draft either, but we'll get to that when I do AFC. Anyway, Teaserking, www.teaserking.com. Again, it's early. It's only May. We'll come out with the college. I'll probably do some pro look-aheads because everything's so different now with all these coaching changes, quarterback changes, free agent, like it's water. Like it's a crime if you stay on the same team for more than 2 years. So maybe I'll do something more with the pros. But the college previews will be coming in probably August. I got to wait for the magazines to come out. But at least every team should be playing the full year. And we'll get a better judge of what's going on. Anyway, again, it's Howard, the Teaser King, www.teaserking.com. Have a great day, everybody. I look forward to talking to you guys.